Factors influencing the elasticity of demand. In the last lecture, we discussed how a firm's revenue will depend on the elasticity of the demand curve it faces. In this lecture, we'll discuss a few of the factors that determine the elasticity of demand in a market. Now, it isn't going to be a complete coverage. That's the kind of thing you'll actually do in a marketing class. But it will give you, I am going to try to give you a little bit of an idea of the factors that can make a demand in a market more or less elastic. Okay, we're going to look at 3 different factors. All else held constant, demand is generally more inelastic, that is, less responsive to price. The fewer the number of substitutes or perceived substitutes available, the shorter the time period under consideration, or the smaller the percent of the consumer's income that is spent on the product. I'm going to kind of reverse these things in the way I discuss them. For example, products with lots of substitutes will have more elastic demand. If you try to raise your price, but it's easy for consumers to meet their needs by switching to a different product, then your sales will fall by a lot. So the greater the number of substitutes, the more elastic demand will be. In general, on the whole, the greater the number of competing products you face, the more elastic the demand for your product will be. And the greater the ease of substituting one product for another, the more elastic your demand will be. Okay, so easy substitution means more elastic demand. What about the time period? The longer consumers have to adjust to a price change, the more elastic demand will be. A good example of that illustrates this principle is gas prices. When gas prices go up, people can't immediately change their method of transportation. They're stuck with the car they have and with the route they have to follow to commute to work or where they go during their daily activities. But over a longer time period, consumers can buy a different car that uses less gasoline and even switch it to an electric car that uses no gasoline at all. So their demand for gasoline is more elastic over the longer time period in which they have a chance to change their method of transportation. Let's look at the third factor, share of income. In general, if something is a small share of consumer income, it's easy for people to react to price changes. Generally, goods that are only a small share of income are not that important to consumers as those that have a large share of income. So it's easy to stop purchasing them when those products' prices go up. That means the demand for these kinds of products will be more elastic. In general, products that are important to consumers will be less elastic. A really good example of this is prescription drugs, which have a very inelastic price curve, or demand curve, that is. Consumers buy the amount of the drug that's prescribed by their doctor. If the price drops, they're not going to buy more. In fact, you could probably say that demand for prescription drugs is completely inelastic. This is one of the reasons why prescription drug prices have increased rapidly in recent years. When prices go up, people don't change the amount that they buy as much as they would for a product with a more elastic demand curve. There's lots of other reasons why prescription drug prices have gone up, but that's one of the major factors. So it's important to think about the type of demand your company faces when you're thinking about changing prices. Like I said, that's the type of thing you'll study in a marketing class, but I hope you got some idea here of the type of things that will influence the elasticity in your market.